Hi everyone, I'm the plant propagator and welcome to my channel. Today I'm in a laboratory here in Southwest Florida and it's been a long day and I'm a little confused as far as what's going on. I have a certain way of doing things in the laboratory and I have a plan and I have a protocol and I stick to it. But what's happened over the past few months is I've been traveling a little bit, I've been busy with other things, and things have gotten a little bit, in the laboratory, things have gotten a little bit out of hand. So as you can see, I've got a lot of orchids in flasks that are pretty big, that need to be deflasked. So these orchids they're just kind of pushing the limit, or they're beyond the limit. These are two different crosses that I made, and things need to be deflasked. And the problem is I've got a lot of orchids that have already been deflasked in the laboratory here, and I am monitoring them and taking care of them. You know, every week, every couple weeks, I pull off all of the old water or fertilizer or whatever that's in that I've used, and then I replace it. And this is a little bit of an effort. It takes me about an hour, 45 minutes to an hour to do, because I have so many of these containers that are filled with orchids. Okay, so what's the dilemma and what's going on? Well, it reminds me of the previous career that I had in the laboratory, where I would do experiments and I would do things and I would get some really interesting results, and you're supposed to be excited about results, but what happens with me is when I discover things, when I find something new, it depresses me a little bit, because it makes me realize how little I know. And so I'm working with these deflasked orchids. They've been sitting in the containers way too long, and they look great. What I used to do is try to get these things out of the containers and outside as soon as I could. But again, the problem is I've been busy, and in addition to that, there's a cold front that's coming through, and it's supposed to get down to 45 this weekend. So I don't want to take these guys out, these newly not newly deflasked, but they're sitting in these containers for 2 to 3 months. But I don't want to take these outside and immediately subject them to temperatures that are below what they should be growing in. So I've got to keep them a little bit longer. But again, what's happening is they look great, so I don't want to take them out. The problem is these guys want to come out, so I got no place to put them. I can only keep them here for another week. They're coming out in a week, but what I wanted to do today is share with you how these orchids look after 2 to 3 months of deflasking. I've showed you how they look after a week and 2 weeks, and how you can start seeing the root growth, which is again the sign for how orchids are doing. You can see the root growth initially starting, and again, I try to pull them out quickly. But what I'm seeing with these orchids is a continual root growth and long root growth and amazing roots, and like I said, the root growth is an indicator of the health of the plant, and the roots on these are growing so well that I don't know if I should take them out. So again, the initial approach was to put them in there, take them out as quickly as possible, get them acclimated and growing outside. Now I'm thinking I need to keep them in the containers a little bit longer, but I can't because I'm getting backed up. So I think I'm going to have to find something in between, let them go 2 or 3 months. But for today, what I want to show you is the amount of root growth and how these plants look after they've been sitting in these containers for 2 to 3 months. The other thing that I want to throw out at you is that I shared a video with you about how a colleague grew his Pseudopodium punctatum, and the one thing that was very different from what I do is he added mycorrhizal fungi. So I've started to do that with a small amount of these deflast plants. It's a little too early to tell what's going on, but they look really good. So I may have to, again, there's more work to do. I may have to modify my protocol so that I add the mycorrhizal fungi and let these deflast orchids sit in the container a little longer under more protected conditions before I put them outside. All right, so what I want to do at this point is get behind the camera and show you how some of these orchids look and show you some of the root growth and what's going on with these orchids that have been sitting in these containers for what I had originally thought was way too long, but now it might become part of my standard protocol. Okay, with that, let's take a look. Okay, and we're back, and I'm sorry, I got to muddy the waters just a little bit more. This was an experiment that we set up in the laboratory. I got to look, probably a couple of months ago. And yeah, it is a little less than 2 months ago. And what happened for this experiment, so this was to evaluate different media for these freshly deflast orchids. And I had a few, so there's one of my hybrids in the back, there's a Brassival and a Dosa that's in the front, and there's a there's a different orchid, a Catasetum type, that is right there and right there. So I don't want to focus in on the Catasetum type, but let's take a look at, first of all, one of my hybrids. And I guess with this, you can't really see much going on. So this is in Leca. These guys right here are in bark. And you really can't see a whole lot that's going on here. So there's not a whole lot of root growth from this. But what I want to show you is, because I'm happy that this is working just a little bit, and what I want to show you is when I mount them directly on the board. And I think I'm focusing in, but you can see the new roots that are growing out there, and there's a new root growing out here. So this is one of my Cattleya hybrids that is on this board where the roots are growing out, and it's doing okay. So, you know, on top of everything else that I'm doing, and I thought I would throw this in, I wanted to show you this, because these are some orchids that I deflast onto 3 different media. It doesn't look like the media is having too much of an effect, but the overall growth of orchids on, you know, is kind of similar regardless of media, which is fine. But I haven't found, again, from that, I haven't found any one medium that is good. What I like to use and what I mostly use is Orchiata, and that's what these are in. So this is one of my hybrids, and this has been deflast. I got to look at the label on here. This has also been 2 months. But what you can see, and I'm going to focus in, is the you know, the root growth that we're getting on with these plants after 2 months. And you can see, if I can get this to focus, you can see the amount of roots that are growing here. And this to me is pretty nice. I mean, some of these roots are just you know, coming out of their containers, going to the next container, which is what they do, but not right when they're. I mean, look at you can see the roots are just growing out of the top of the containers, and it didn't start out as that much root growth. So I'm pretty happy with how those look. As we go over to the next container, you can see the same type of thing. Again, these are a couple of months old, and these are some you know, some nice these are my Cattleya hybrids. And what you might be able to see, and let's see if I can get a better angle on this, but there's a new, on this one, and usually you don't see this after a couple months, there's a new pseudobulb growing out of this plant. And I saw another plant where it's doing the same thing, where you're getting, normally you just kind of expansion, you get root growth. But on a few of these plants, there's another one right back here, there's a new pseudobulb growing out from the first pseudobulb that was coming out. So there's a lot of growth that's going on in here, and this was pretty exciting to see. All right, so what I'm going to do is get a few more of these containers out where we can take a look at some additional orchids of different types to give you a little bit of a flavor for what's going on. Okay, and we are back. So I wanted to show you this. I wasn't originally planning on showing this to you, but because of the trip that I took and the tour that I took to Green Circle Growers, which is the largest Phalaenopsis producer in the United States, I wanted to show you some of my phals, and this is just not fair. So these are 2-inch pots. These were deflasted a couple of months ago, and these guys, they're just growing like crazy. I mean, you don't have a lot of roots, but the leaves on some of these are just getting huge. So I wasn't planning on sharing this to you, but as I was going through some of my other boxes, I thought, well, okay, these look pretty nice. I wanted to show you this as well. Phals are really not where my focus lies, but they seem to be really responsive to things in the laboratory. Okay, moving on. Some of the other ones that I did want to show you are right here. So these are some dens, and these are doing pretty well. These were deflasted again 2 months ago. And what's amazing on this, there's not as much root growth on these guys, but what I want to point you to is the additional canes that are growing. So this plant right here, hard to see because my tags are in the way, but it has 3 canes that are growing out of this original plant right here. But a lot of these things are just really growing nicely. Again, they started out pretty big, but these were in flasks a couple of months ago. One of the nicest ones, let's see if I can, right here. So that is an additional, so the original plant is behind it, but that's a new cane that's growing out. I think that's a couple of months going, but a lot of these plants are like this, where there are you can see the original plant and there's additional canes that are growing out of it. And again, this is a dendrobium, a cross that I made a while ago, and but the plants are doing well. And the interesting thing is the largest plant that I pulled out that's in a 4-inch pot, it's just huge. It's only got one small additional cane growing out of the bottom of it, but the plant itself, you can see, is pretty big. Okay, moving on a little bit. These don't look, there's a lot of yellowing in the leaves, and I'm not sure why. This is one of my hybrids, but what I want you to focus on is not the yellowing leaves, but the root growth that you see coming out of these plants, and it's just really kind of striking. There's roots that are just all over the surface of these things. The plants themselves are big, the leaves are big, but you can see this root that's coming out to the right, and it goes around, and I'm not sure if that's the original plant or another one is, but you can take a look at the phenomenal amount of root growth here, and these things seem to be doing well. I think you've got a little bit of yellowing of the leaves in this. I think that will reverse. I don't think there's any, it's not fungus. There's nothing bad about this, but I think it just may be because, and I've been I use a weak fertilizer. Maybe they need stronger fertilizer, but the roots are growing out. I don't know if I can focus in on one. I just see right. I mean, that's all you can kind of see in this field is those roots that are irradiating out. But that's what I use as an indicator of nice growth of these orchids plants. Okay, last one that I want to show you is the container next to it. Again, it's the same type of thing. This is a Cattleya hybrid that I made. And again, if you look here, you can see really the phenomenal root growth that I have from these seedlings. So as you look through here, it may not be all of them, but when you look at it, I tend to focus on certain things. I did that in the laboratory. You ignore some things, fine, little yellowing on some of these leaves, and some people focus on the negatives. I tend to be an optimist and focus on the positives, and that with orchids is really nice root growth, and that's what you can see from these plants. So I'm pretty happy what's going on. I mean, look at this. Jeez. Okay. That's just a lot of roots coming out of that plant that was only deflasked a couple of months ago. All right, so good growth, nice of the plants, but also really nice roots, which is the main thing, like I said, that I look for. All right, that's all I have for today. I just wanted to give you an update, and I'm happy with the results, but I'm also a little bit confused because it's backed up. I got a lot more to learn, so I'm taking what I thought was my standard protocol, and I think I got to change it because of the growth that I'm seeing, because I let these things sit for a little bit too long. So, you got to do what your plants tell you to do, and they're telling me they like sitting in these containers for a little bit longer than I had originally planned. But, they got to grow up and get out into the real orchid world. All right, that's all I have for today. I hope you enjoyed my video. If you did and you want to keep on seeing them, it would help me out if you could click on like, share, and subscribe to my channel if you're not already a subscriber. All right, that's all I have for today. Again, I hope you enjoyed it, and happy propagating.